Want to become a better photographer? You're in the right place. Welcome to Andre Purdue Photography. First off, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below so you don't miss any of our future videos or lessons. As well, let me know in the comments if you found this video helpful or if you guys have any topics that you'd like me to cover in the future. As well, you guys can catch me live on Twitch every Friday at 12 p.m. EST, where I'll do live photo editing tutorials and we kind of just hang out and chat. And if you guys have any questions, you can bring them to me then. Okay, so for today's lesson, we got RAW versus JPEG. All DSLRs will allow you to take photographs in two different file formats. On one end, you have JPEG, and on the other, you have RAW. So, which one do you choose? Let's break them down so that you guys can make an informed decision. First off, here are two images. The one on the left is a JPEG file, and the one on the right is a RAW file. Both images were shot at the exact same time with the same settings. Let's zoom in and have a look at the detail. You will notice the JPEG has a lot less detail quality than the RAW. Great, now let's break down both file types individually. JPEGs are the most common file type for photographs. Take your smartphone, for example. They take photos in JPEG, and the main reason for this is the file size. Another reason why JPEG is a desired file type is that all of the post-processing is done in camera the moment the photograph is taken. That means when that photo is taken, a lot of the adjustments like color correction and contrast correction and sharpening and so on is done in camera the moment that photo is taken. The photo is then compressed as the file saves, making it a smaller shareable size. That's why JPEG is the ideal format for your iPhone, for example. It's a small shareable sized file that you can send to your friends or upload to social media, as well as it looks relatively good because there's been a lot of post-processing done the moment that the photo was taken. Here's the problem with that. When your photo is so heavily compressed and processed in camera, you lose a lot of detail and image quality in that process. As well, you might notice some undesirable effects that might happen to your photograph. Your photo might look desirable in the camera view, but when you take it to a post-processor like Lightroom or Photoshop, you're gonna notice the loss in quality. And you're gonna notice that you've lost a lot of your editing power when it comes to editing a JPEG. And that's where RAW comes in. Just a note on RAW files, a lot of manufacturers or companies will actually use different names. So for example, Canon's RAW file is called a CRW and Nikon is called an NEF. So what is a RAW file? A RAW file is exactly like it sounds. Your photo will contain the raw, completely unprocessed data from your camera's sensor the moment the photo's taken. So every drop of data in its most purest form is available to you in this RAW file format, which gives you ultimate freedom in the post-processing or editing phase. Now, you've probably put together that the RAW file is so much bigger than the JPEG, and that's true because there is so much more data in a RAW file than there is a JPEG. JPEG files are actually taken at an 8-bit rate, where a RAW file is actually a 12 or a 14. So it's a much larger file. Now, here's the problem you come across with a RAW file format. Because this file type is not processed in camera, you're then gonna have to use your computer as well as a dedicated RAW conversion software such as Lightroom to do your processing. So you're gonna have to do all of your sharpening, your exposure, your whites, your blacks, your contrast, your shadows, all that good stuff on your computer on your own time, and that's pretty time consuming. But I really think that's part of the fun. Do you really want your camera doing all that for you, or do you want to have the power to do that the way you want it in your own hands? With a RAW file format, you get to capture your photo exactly the way you want it and process it to look exactly the way that you envisioned it. And then when you're finished editing your RAW file, you'll then convert it into a JPEG file so that it is smaller, so that you can share, upload, all that good stuff. A lot of the higher end DSLRs will actually come with 2 SD slots, which will allow you to program your camera to capture a RAW and a JPEG with every single shot you take. One SD card is dedicated to RAW and the other SD card is dedicated to JPEG. So that's one option. Personally, I dedicate my second SD card to backup my first one. That means when I take a photo, a RAW file format is saved to both SD slots. That way, if I have one card fail on me, I have a backup on the other card. That's just one way I ensure that I don't lose any of my work. So at the end of the day, when you're choosing between RAW and JPEG, ultimately you have to decide what you want to do with that image, how much time you want to spend editing, and how quickly you want to be able to share that photo. If you want my advice, always shoot in RAW. That way you have the full power and capability to edit and process that photo exactly the way you envisioned it. Until next time, happy shooting.